I decided to leave my own house in the time it takes a Bud Light to go warm. Holden was sunk into my recliner like a tick, boots off, socks gray at the heel, the Nuggets game bouncing blue light across his face. The remote lay on his stomach, like a badge he hadn't earned. "Graham," he said without looking over, "grab me another." 3 words, tossed like scraps to a dog in the backyard. A month ago, I might have laughed it off and fetched a bottle. A year ago, I would have told myself it was temporary, just until Caitlin and Holden got back on their feet. Tonight, the command hit some quiet. Hidden switch I didn't know was still wired to power. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I set the groceries down on the kitchen island. Milk sloshed. Paper bag tore. "You got legs," I said, calm as a winter road. He finally glanced at me, eyebrows cocked with that bland, insolent surprise. "We good here, old man?" "I'm comfy." Caitlin walked in from the hallway, hair up in a messy knot, phone in her hand, looking everywhere but at me. "Dad, don't start. Just get him the beer. Please." Bud Light hissed in the living room. Something hissed inside me. I looked around at the house my father framed with his hands and my mother painted summers ago, at the flag folded in a triangle above the fireplace, at the family photos along the hall like mile markers I'd already passed. I heard Martha's voice, as clear as a bell struck in another room. "Don't teach them you'll always pay the bill for their disrespect." Holden smirked, thumb flipping channels. "Be a team player," he said. "You live here on our good graces." "Are," I repeated. Caitlin's eyes finally met mine. There was a tremor in them. I knew too well, the tremor of someone protecting the wrong person. Either help or maybe you should spend a few weeks at the Anafi 25. Give us space. She said it gently, like handing me a paper cup before a blood draw. The silence that followed was clean and bright. It felt like the minute before sunup, when the lake holds its breath. "Okay," I said. "Just that." Not a pitch raised, not a plea. I walked down the hall and pulled the old Samsonite from under my bed. The zipper teeth sounded like a new lock catching. Underwear, socks, jeans. The framed photo of Caitlin at 9 in her softball jersey. The brass coin from Chief when he pinned my last stripe. Martha's locket in the side pocket. I moved slow on purpose. I wanted the weight of each thing. Out in the living room, voices dropped to a rapid whisper. I caught fragments, dramatic, "He'll be back, he always is." The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere, a neighbor's wind chime clinked like ice in a glass. When I rolled the suitcase down the hall, Holden sat up, a grin trying hard to be a threat. "You're not really." "I am." Caitlin stepped closer, tears bright and unfallen. "Dad, please don't make this bigger than it is." I paused by the coat rack, where my denim jacket hung like a second skin. "It's exactly as big as you made it." The door felt heavier than usual. My keys rattled like a verdict. I opened it to the cool Colorado evening and the smell of cut grass from across the street. Then something fluttered at my feet. The day's mail slipped through a slot and trapped between the mat and the door. Habit made me pick the stack up. On top, a glossy envelope from Front Range Credit Union, addressed not to me but to Caitlin. Bold typed through the window. Important. Home equity loan disclosures enclosed. I stared, so long the paper warmed in my hands. "Caitlin," I said without turning, "since when do you have disclosures from my credit union?" She made a sound like a stuck zipper. It's nothing. Mail mix-up." Behind me, Holden stood. The recliner snapped forward with a thud. "Give me that," he said. I slid the envelope into my jacket pocket and stepped onto the porch. The sky over the Rockies burned orange at the edges like an idea catching fire. "Dad," Caitlin said, voice shaking now, "don't go." "I'll be in touch," I said, "but not the way you think." I pulled the door closed on the house, on the game, on the old life. The key clicked once, hard and final. I took 3 steps toward my truck, feeling lighter with each one, and then I heard it. Shoes scuffing fast behind me, Holden's breath hot with beer and panic, his hand reaching for my shoulder. "Open the door, Graham," he hissed, "or I swear." And in that same instant, My phone vibrated in my pocket with a number I hadn't seen in years. Felix, the banker, calling at 8:12 p.m. I answered, eyes on Holden's shadow stretching over mine. Felix. His voice came tight and urgent. Graham, do not sign anything. And whatever you do, don't let them back you inside. I need to tell you what I found about your house. Felix's voice cut through the dusk like a warning shot. I was going over some flag files today, he said, speaking low, like he was calling from inside a church. One of them had your address on it. Your address? Graham. The application said Holden was a homeowner. My grip tightened on the phone. Holden was still standing too close, his breath smelling like cheap beer and old fried food. Go on, I said, keeping my eyes on him. They submitted paperwork for a home equity loan. 50 grand. Claimed the house was his outright. The thing is, the documents looked official until I ran the title search. Everything came back to you. No liens, no cosigners. Which means they forged it. I finished for him. Yeah, and it wasn't sloppy. Somebody put real work into making it look legit. I've seen this before. Graham, this wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate fraud. Listen to me. They're in trouble. And if they think they can solve it by selling pieces of your life out from under you. I turned just enough to see Holden shift his weight, his hand still half raised like he wanted to snatch the phone away. Appreciate it, Felix. We'll talk more tomorrow. I hung up before Holden could hear anything else. He stepped forward, smirking like he thought I was bluffing. Bank calling you for your senior discounts? No, I said, for a criminal investigation. That wiped the smirk for about 3 seconds. Then he forced a laugh. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I stepped down from the porch and walked to my truck. He didn't follow this time. Just stood there with that fake grin melting under the streetlight. At the Pine View Motel, I paid cash for the room. Old habit from my Navy days. Sometimes you don't want a paper trail until you know who's tracking it. The place smelled like pine cleaner, and cigarette smoke with the window cracked just enough to fool no one. I sat at the little desk and opened my laptop. Mortgage account, canceled the auto pay. Insurance, removed both their cards from my policy. Credit cards, locked every account where Caitlin was an authorized user. Each confirmation number went into a yellow legal pad like ammunition in a box. By midnight, my phone had 4 missed calls from Caitlin and 2 from Holden. I didn't listen. Not yet. Instead, I shut the curtains, double-locked the door, and let the TV play some forgettable late-night show while I ran through Felix's words in my head. Deliberate fraud. The next morning, I hit the diner for black coffee and bacon. The place was half full of retirees and ranch hands. I'd barely stir my coffee when Naomi, the waitress who'd been serving me since before Martha passed, leaned on the counter. Saw your boy-in-law in here yesterday, she said, bragging about a big cash windfall coming his way. Said something about finally being able to buy out the old man. I felt the coffee go bitter in my mouth. Holden wasn't just talking, he was planning. Back at the motel, I decided to pull the messages off my phone. The first one from Caitlin was all concern, asking if I was okay. The next few were sharper, accusations, guilt trips, demands. But the last one, timestamped 2:13 a.m., stopped me cold. Holden's voice low and slurred. If you think you can walk away from this, Graham, you're wrong. You owe us, oh man, you'll see. I replayed it twice, writing down every word. That tone, I'd heard it before overseas from men backed into corners with nothing left to lose. And then, as I set the phone down, there was a knock at the motel door. Slow, deliberate, not the housekeeping kind. Through the peephole, 2 men in dark jackets. Not police, not neighbors. One of them tapping his palm with a folded piece of paper. The other scanning the parking lot like he expected trouble. I'd seen that look before, too. I stepped back from the door, my heart kicking up, and then I heard it. The muffled voice of the taller one, just clear enough to the cheap motel door. We know Holden's here. Tell him Marcus sent us, and we're done asking nice. I froze just inside the motel room, my back pressed against the wall next to the door. My first instinct was to answer years of habit, of being the man who handled problems head-on. But this wasn't my problem anymore. This was Holden's mess, bleeding across my threshold. The shorter guy spoke this time, voice muffled but sharp. "Don't make us wait, man. We got all day." I stayed quiet, let the silence do the talking. After a moment, a shadow shifted across the peephole, and the tall one knocked again, 3 hard raps that made the cheapwood flex. Then, finally, they walked away, their boots scuffing the concrete as they headed toward a beat-up black Dodge parked under flickering lot light. The moment their engine turned over, I grabbed my phone and dialed Felix. He answered on the first ring. "Felix," I said, "you know a Marcus?" A pause and, "Not personally, but I've heard the name in collection circles. Not the kind you find in a polite phone book." "Why?" "Because Marcus just sent 2 guys to my door looking for Holden." Felix exhaled slowly. "That's bad. Graham, this isn't just unpaid credit cards. We're talking cash lenders who don't report to the credit bureau. They don't send polite letters. They send warnings." Warnings. I thought about the way the tall guy tapped his palm with that folded paper, like it was the last polite gesture he planned to make. After we hung up, I called the county sheriff's non-emergency line. The dispatcher took my statement, promised to have a patrol car swing by Pineview when available. Translation: don't hold your breath. I spent the rest of the morning making a list. Every financial tie between me and those 2. Insurance, utilities, shared bank accounts, even the warehouse club membership. By noon, every line had a big red cancel next to it. I went out for lunch at the diner, half hoping to cool my nerves. But as soon as I stepped in, the place went quiet. Naomi brought me coffee without asking, but her eyes told me she'd heard things. "You okay, Graham?" she asked finally. "Fine." I lied. "Well, just so you know, Holden's been running his mouth. Says you're losing it, that you walked out over some beer. He's telling people you promised to take care of them for life." I stirred my coffee slow, watching the cream swirl. Funny, I don't remember signing that contract. Back at the motel, the black Dodge was gone. For the first time all day, I let my shoulders drop a little. Maybe Marcus's boys had decided to look elsewhere. I just sat down at the desk when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Caitlin, Dad, we need to talk. It's important." I almost ignored it. But then another came through immediately. "Caitlin, please. I'm scared. Holden's not himself. He's talking about doing something tonight. Something stupid." My thumb hovered over the call button. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe that somewhere under the mess, my daughter was still the kid who used to fall asleep in the back of my pickup after Little League games. I hit call. She answered on the first ring, voice tight and trembling. "Dad?" I didn't know who else to call. "He's packing a bag and saying we're leaving town tonight. He keeps talking about money, about people we can't keep waiting. And, Dad, he took your spare key from the hook in the kitchen. Said, we're going to the house." She stopped, her breath catching like she just remembered I wasn't supposed to know. I sat up straight. "Caitlin, why would he need to go to the house?" Her answer came in a whisper, almost swallowed by the line. "Because there's something in the attic he doesn't want anyone to find before we're gone." It wasn't the kind of place you stumbled into by accident. You had to know the pull-down ladder was hidden behind the panel in the hallway ceiling. You had to know where I kept the step stool and how to work the old brass latch that stuck if you didn't jiggle it twice. Holden knew. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Caitlin, what's in the attic?" "I don't know," she stammered. "He won't tell me. Just keep saying it's worth more than anyone thinks." My mind ran through what I'd stashed up there over the years. Boxes of Navy memorabilia, Martha's wedding dress, a few photo albums. And then it hit me. An old green footlocker padlocked with a thick manila envelope taped inside the lid. The envelope that held the original deed to the house, my military discharge papers, and the safe deposit keys. I stood up so fast the chair legs screeched against the cheap motel carpet. "Caitlin, listen to me. You leave that house if he takes you there. Do not go into the attic. Do you understand?" Her voice wavered. "I don't think I can stop him. He's different right now. angry in a way I've never seen. And those guys, Marcus's guys, he said if we don't settle up by tonight, they'll come back. He keeps looking at the clock. I grab my jacket and keys. Where are you now? At the house, she whispered. He's in the garage, loading tools into the truck. I told him I had to go to the bathroom. Just call you. Leave, I said again. Go to Naomi's diner. Sit at the counter where I can see you when I get there. I'm on my way. She hesitated. What about Holden? I didn't answer that. I just hung up and headed for the truck. The drive from Pine View to my neighborhood usually took 15 minutes. I made it in 9, the speedometer needle nudging past anything the law would approve of. My mind chewed on every possible angle. If Holden got that Foot Locker, he could use the paperwork to try another loan. Or worse, he could pawn off the safe deposit keys to someone who knew exactly what to do with them. I turned onto my street, slowing as I approached the house. The driveway was empty. My stomach sank. Too late. But then I saw a movement through the side yard fence. The gate was ajar, swinging slightly in the breeze. I killed the engine and got out, every nerve on edge. The side yard was quiet except for the crunch of my boots on gravel. The back door stood open just enough to show the glow of a single light inside. I stepped into my own kitchen. The air smelled of motor oil and something sharper. Fear, maybe, or just my imagination. The house was silent. Too silent. I moved down the hall, past the photos and the coat rack. The step stool was already in place beneath the attic hatch. The latch was unhooked, the ladder down. A faint beam of light spilled from above, and I heard the scrape of something heavy being dragged across plywood. Holden, I called up, my voice steady but low. The dragging stopped. Silence. Then his face appeared at the top of the ladder, flushed and sweating, eyes wild like a cornered animal. You shouldn't have come here, Graham, he said, his voice low and shaking. I could say the same. He grinned, a strange, joyless thing. You think you know what's going on? You have no idea. Before I could answer, a voice came from behind me in the hallway, deep, unfamiliar, and close enough to feel the breath on my neck. He's right, the man said, and you're about to find out the hard way. I turned slowly, every muscle in my back tightening like a winch cable. The man blocking the hallway was tall, maybe mid-40s, with a shaved head and a leather jacket that looked like it had seen more than one bar fight. His hands were empty, but the way he carried himself told me that could change fast. Behind him, another figure stepped into view, shorter, broader, wearing the same kind of black work boots I'd seen outside my motel room. Marcus's boys. You followed me, I said. The shaved head smirked. Didn't have to. You made it easy. From above, Holden's voice cut in. We had a deal, Marcus. I told you I just needed. Shut up. The tall one snapped without looking up the ladder. You've been talking too much already. I glanced toward the kitchen, calculating the steps to the back door. Too far. Let's keep this simple, Marcus's man said, taking a step closer. You've got something upstairs that belongs to our friend here. He's been slow paying his tab, so we're here to speed things along. You mean stealing from me? I said. The shorter one laughed. Call it whatever you want. We get paid tonight, or your boy here is going to wish his only problem was money. Holden shifted above us, the plywood creaking. Graham, just let me take it. I'll be gone, they'll be gone. That's not how this works, I said, keeping my eyes on the tall one. He moved closer again, close enough that I could smell the cigarette smoke in his jacket. You got 10 seconds to decide if you want this to go easy. Where's the key to that lockbox upstairs? I didn't answer. From above, the scrape of metal, Holden working on the padlock with something. My chest tightened. If he got open, every document in that footlocker would be gone in minutes. The shorter man's hand dipped into his jacket. My gut told me it wasn't for a wallet. 5 seconds, the tall one said. Then we stopped asking. And that's when the sound came, loud, sharp, and unmistakable, the heavy clack of a pump-action shotgun being racked from somewhere behind him in the hallway. A voice followed, calm but carrying enough weight to stop the air in the room. Step away from him, it said. I mean now. Both men froze mid-step. That sound, the solid, deliberate cha-chunk of a shotgun slide, has a way of rearranging a person's priorities. From behind them, Naomi stepped into view, her diner apron still tied around her waist, a 12-gauge Mossberg leveled steady at chest height. Her eyes weren't the soft, coffee-pouring kind I was used to. These were hard, unblinking, and very sure of themselves. "I said move," she repeated, her voice low and firm. The tall one raised his hand slowly, smirk fading into something more calculating. The shorter man glanced at him like he was waiting for a signal. But Naomi didn't give them time to think. "Back toward the kitchen," she said. "Now!" They started moving, slow as syrup, but their eyes never left me. I took the opportunity to step sideways toward the attic ladder. Holden was crouched at the top, breathing hard, a screwdriver in one hand and the padlock hanging open in the other. "Put it down," I said. He shook his head. "You don't get it. Graham, this is my only way out." "Out of what?" "You think Marcus is bad? There's worse coming. People oh, his voice cracked. "If I don't get them something tonight, they'll come for me and Caitlin both." Naomi's voice cut in from the kitchen. "Graham, we got about 30 seconds before they decide to get stupid. You want to call the sheriff, or should I?" I pulled my phone from my pocket, keeping my eyes on Holden. "Put the papers back in the box. We'll figure the rest later." Holden hesitated, then glanced past me toward the kitchen. The tall man was watching, his hand still up but his jaw tight, like he was waiting for a chance to move. "Now, Holden," I said. He slowly placed the documents back into the footlocker, but his eyes kept darting toward the open attic window. Then I saw it, his left foot shifting toward the ledge. "Don't," I warned, but he did. With a sudden burst, Holden swung a leg out and disappeared into the dark, the sound of shingles scraping under his boots. Naomi's shotgun jerked toward the noise overhead. "He's on the roof." And then, from outside, came the squeal of tires, someone pulling up fast. Headlights swept across the windows, and an engine roared just beneath the attic's eaves. Whoever it was, they hadn't come to talk. The headlights cut hard across the living room, washing the walls in white for a split second before swinging toward the backyard. The engine revved, deep, aggressive, the kind of sound that made the hair on my neck stand up. Naomi shifted her stance. Shotgun still trained on Marcus's men. "Who the hell is that?" "Not friends," I said. From above, Holden's boots pounded across the roof toward the backside of the house. I heard a man shout from outside, voice rough and urgent. "Holden, move it." Marcus's tall guy turned his head just enough to smirk. "Guess we're all popular tonight." I kept my phone in one hand, thumbing the screen to dial 911. But before to connect, the front door shook with a heavy, deliberate bang once, twice, 3 times. Not knocking. Testing. Naomi barked, kitchen. "Now." She herded Marcus's boys backward, keeping them in sight. I backed toward the hall, trying to get a line of sight through the front window, without exposing myself, through the narrow gap in the curtains. I caught a glimpse of a black SUV idling at the curb, engine rumbling low. 3 silhouettes inside. The one behind the wheel had something in his lap. Long, angled, looked a hell of a lot like a rifle stock. The front door handle jiggled. A voice came through, muffled but clear enough to chill the room. "Open up or we open it for you." Naomi shot me a glance, quick and sharp. "You got a back way out." "Through the garage," I said, already running the route in my head. But Holden was out there somewhere, on the roof or in the yard, maybe about to jump straight into their arms. Then thump, heavy, from above. We all looked up. Another thump, closer to the front of the house this time. Then the scrape of boots on shingles. Someone was climbing down. Naomi swung the shotgun toward the noise just as the kitchen window shattered inward, glass sprang across the counter. A hand in a black glove reached through and found the latch. The tall man's grin came back, sharp and ugly. "Told you," he said. And before Naomi could react, the back door slammed open, hard, and a figure stepped inside, silhouetted in the glow from the yard. It wasn't Holden. It was Caitlin. Her face was pale, eyes wide, and in her hands was my safe deposit key. Caitlin, My voice came out sharper than I intended. Where'd you get that key? She looked from me to Naomi, then over at Marcus's men, her breathing quick and uneven. Holden gave it to me, she said. Told me to run. Said if I didn't, they'd take me instead. Naomi didn't lower the shotgun. Who's they, sweetheart? Before she could answer, the gloved hand at the kitchen window found a latch and twisted. The shorter of Marcus's guys lunged toward it, clearly ready to pull the intruder inside. But Naomi barked, "Don't even think about it." And the barrel followed his movement like a laser sight. The front door rattled again, harder this time. A voice from outside shouted, "We're coming in." Caitlin flinched and stepped toward me, the safe deposit key trembling between her fingers. "Dad, you have to listen. Holden's in deeper than you know. He told me the stuff in that box could fix everything." I stared at her, or make it a whole lot worse. Naomi jerked her chin toward the hallway. "We need to move, Graham. Right now. That garage exit." The tall man cut her off with a dry laugh. "You're not going anywhere with that key. My boss will want it. And trust me, you want my boss happy." Glass crunched under my boots as I crossed to Caitlin and pulled her behind me. "Naomi, cover the back." "I'll..." The sound that came next froze everyone in place. A single, sharp gunshot from outside, close enough that the walls seemed to flinch. Caitlin screamed. Naomi swung toward the shattered kitchen window, but whoever had been there was gone. The tall man's smirk vanished. "That's not my people," he said, almost to himself. From the attic above, there was a sudden, heavy crash, like something big had tipped over. Then Holden's voice, raw and panicked. "Graham, they're in here." I bolted for the ladder, Naomi close behind, Caitlin clutching the keys so tight her knuckles had gone white. Marcus's men didn't try to stop me. They looked just as rattled as I felt. Halfway up, I caught sight of movement in the dim attic light. Holden was backed into the far corner, one hand up as if to shield himself. And opposite him, stepping out from behind the footlocker, was a man I'd never seen before, tall, lean, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. In his right hand, he held Martha's locket, and in his left, a gun pointed straight at Holden's head. "Easy," I said, my voice low, each rung of the ladder creaking under my weight. "Let's not do anything stupid." The man in the cap didn't look at me. His eyes stayed locked on Holden. This idiot owes people money he'll never be able to pay. But he's been telling everyone there's something in this house worth more than the debt. I'm here to collect. Holden's breath was coming in short, sharp bursts. "It's in the footlocker," he blurted. "Just take it and go." "That box," the man said, tilting his chin toward me, "is mine now." "Not a chance," I replied. "That footlocker holds documents with my name on them. You walk out with it, you're walking into a federal crime." He finally glanced at me, just for a second, and I caught the glint in his eyes, calm, calculating, the kind of man who'd done this before and walked away. "I'm already past caring about laws. Old man, step aside." Below us, Naomi's voice rang out, sharp as broken glass. "Graham, you okay up there?" "I'm fine," I called back, though my pulse was racing. The man in the cap didn't move his gun. "I'm taking it. You can either get out of my way, or you can be part of the problem." Holden, trembling, edged sideways toward the attic window, like he thought he could slip away again. The man noticed and took one step toward him. Gun still up, that was my opening. I lunged for the footlocker, grabbing the handle and yanking it toward the ladder. The man snarled and swung the barrel toward me. I froze, my hand still on the metal. From below, there was the sound of heavy boots hitting the kitchen tile. More people coming in through the back. Marcus's voice shouted something I couldn't make out. The man in the cap's head turned toward the noise just for a fraction of a second. Holden saw his chance and bolted for the window, but his foot caught on the edge of the locker. He went sprawling, hitting the floor hard, and something small skittered across the plywood toward me. I looked down. It was Martha's locket. Before I could react, the man in the cap snapped his gaze back to me, his jaw tight. "Pick that up," he said. "Now." But before I could even bend, a deafening blast tore through the attic from the open window. A gunshot from outside. The man staggered back, clutching his shoulder, and his pistol clattered to the floor between us. I stared at the weapon just inches from my boot and heard a voice from the yard shout up through the window. "Graham, don't touch that gun." The voice was sharp, commanding, someone who expected to be obeyed. For a second, I thought it might be a cop, but the tone was wrong. There was no official in it, just urgency and familiarity. The man in the cap groaned, blood seeping through his jacket, but his eyes stayed on the pistol lying between us. Holden, still on the floor, stared at it too, like a moth fixed on a flame. "Graham," the voice called again, closer now. "Leave the gun where it is." I leaned slightly toward the window, just enough to see past the frame. Standing in the yard was Felix, tie loose, jacket flapping in the night breeze, a revolver in his right hand. His face was tight, unreadable. "What the hell are you doing here?" I called down. "Saving your life." He shot back. "But if you pick up that piece, you'll make yourself a target. Let me handle this." The man in the cap shifted his weight, his free hand reaching toward the pistol. Instinct told me to kick it toward myself, but Felix's warning echoed in my head. If I took possession of it, and the sheriff showed up, I'd be explaining why I was armed over a wounded man in my own attic. Holden moved first, scrambling forward on hands and knees, his fingers stretching toward the gun. "Don't!" I barked. Too late. His hand closed around the grip, and the man in the cap lunged. They collided, bodies twisting, the pistol clattering again as both men fought for it. Below, I heard Naomi shouting orders, the crash of something heavy in the kitchen, Marcus's voice rising in anger. The whole house was alive with chaos. I stepped forward, ready to drag Holden back, when Felix's revolver barked once, loud enough to punch through the fighting. The man in the cap froze, his eyes flicking toward the window. "Everyone stop moving," Felix said, his voice low but carrying. Holden's chest was heaving, his hands empty now. The pistol lay between him and the wounded man, both too wary to grab it again. Then a new sound split the night, a set of sirens close, growing louder. Red and blue light began to wash across the attic walls, strobing over dust and sweat and fear. Felix looked up at me through the window, his jaw tight. "You're out of time, Graham. If they see what's up there without the right story," he let the sentence hang, then added, "you'd better decide real quick whose side you're on." The sirens were right on top of us now, their wail bouncing off the houses like a warning you couldn't outrun. Through the window, I saw the flash of a cruiser skidding to a stop at the curb, another one pulling in behind it. Felix's eyes never left mine. "You've got maybe 30 seconds before uniforms are in that attic. If they see a bleeding man, a gun on the floor, and you standing over both, good luck explaining." I glanced at the wounded man in the cap. He was pale, jaw clenched, a dark stain spreading across his shoulder. Holden sat against the wall, hands shaking, eyes darting between me and the pistol like he still hadn't decided what to do next. Below, Naomi's voice carried up from the kitchen, urgent. "Graham." 2 deputies just came to front. They're asking questions. The tall man, Marcus's guy, yelled something I couldn't make out, but it had the rhythm of someone laying blame. I turned back to Felix. "What are you suggesting?" He gave a tight smile. "Get that footlocker out of sight. Get rid of the gun. And don't say a word about me being here." My stomach nodded. Felix wasn't law enforcement. Whatever game he was playing, it wasn't for the sheriff's benefit. Boots hit the ladder below me. A deputy's voice called up, "Sheriff's Department. Everyone stay where you are." Felix's gaze sharpened. "Graham, now." I didn't have time to think. I kicked the pistol toward the far corner, where it slid under a stack of old boxes. The man in the cap watched it go but didn't move. Blood loss had him swaying. Holden opened his mouth like he was about to speak, but I cut him off. "Shut it." Not a word. The first deputy's head came into view, flashlight beam slicing through the dust. "Step back from the injured man, sir." I raised my hand slightly, palms out, and took 1 step back. From the window, Felix was gone, just an empty square of night. The deputy climbed the rest of the way up, his partner right behind him. They took in the scene, The wounded stranger, Holden pale and shaking, me standing there like the last man at the card table, and exchanged a look I didn't like. Sir, the first one said, "We're going to need you to come downstairs and answer some questions." I nodded, but my eyes stayed on Holden. "Don't move," I told him quietly. The deputy turned to help the man in the cap down the ladder, and I started toward the opening. That's when I saw it. Caitlin's face at the bottom of the ladder, pale and tense. She held the safe deposit key in one hand, but now, in her other, was something else, a folded piece of paper. And even from up here, I could read the bold header across the top. Last will and testament of Graham, redacted. For a second, everything else, the sirens, the deputies, the blood on the attic floor, faded into static. All I could see was that folded document in Caitlin's hand. "Where did you get that?" I asked, my voice low but sharper than I intended. She glanced up the ladder at me, then flicked her eyes toward Holden. It was in the desk drawer in her office. Bottom one. Holden told me to grab it before anyone else did. Holden muttered something under his breath. Too low for the deputies to catch, but I knew the tone. Damage control. The deputy closest to me said, "Sir, let's keep moving. We need to secure the scene." But I didn't move. My gaze stayed locked on Caitlin. "Hand it over," I said. She shook her head, holding the will tighter. "Not until you hear me out. This isn't what you think." "Ma'am," one of the deputies interrupted, "we'll need to take that as evidence if it's connected to what happened here tonight." Her eyes widened just a fraction, and I saw the calculation run across her face. She took a quick step back from the ladder. "Then I guess it's not connected." "Caitlin," I warned. Downstairs, voices were rising. Naomi argued with someone. Marcus's guys talking over her. The crackle of a radio. The air in the house felt tight, like a room with the windows shut and too many people breathing inside. The deputy gave me a nudge toward the ladder. "Sir, now." I started down, my boots finding each rung, my eyes never leaving Caitlin. When I reached the floor, she was already halfway toward the kitchen. The will folded tight in her fist. "What's in it?" I asked, following. She didn't slow. "A lot of things you never told me." That hit me harder than I expected. "Like what?" She stopped just long enough to look back at me. "Like who gets the house if you're not around?" Before I could answer, a sharp bang came from the front of the house, loud enough to silence every voice in the place. The deputies froze. Marcus's men froze. Then the sound of heavy boots on hardwood, moving fast toward us. Caitlin's eyes darted past me, her face draining of color, and a man's voice came from the hallway, cold and certain. "Everyone stay where you are, or the next one goes through somebody's chest." The voice was deep, gravelly, and didn't belong to anyone already in the house. Every head in the kitchen turned toward the front hall. The two deputies moved instinctively, hands hovering near their holsters, but they didn't draw. Not yet. The man stepped into view, and it was instantly clear why. He was big, 6'4", easy, and carried himself like someone used to getting compliance without much effort. In his right hand was a matte black pistol, aimed loosely at the floor, but ready to rise in an instant. Behind him, the open front door spilled in the cold night air and the flash of red and blue lights. But the deputies' cruisers were still outside, untouched. Whoever this man was, he'd walked right past law enforcement to get here. Naomi's eyes narrowed, but she didn't raise the shotgun again. Too many people between her and him. Marcus's tall man actually looked uneasy now, which told me plenty. "Who are you?" one deputy demanded. The stranger ignored him and looked straight at me. "Graham, right?" My stomach nodded. "That's me." He gave a short nod, like that confirmed something. "You've got something I need, and you've got about 2 minutes to hand it over before this turns into a very bad night for everyone." I didn't have to ask what something was. My mind went straight to the footlocker upstairs, the safe deposit key in Caitlin's hand, and the freshly folded will she was still clutching like a lifeline. "Not happening," I said. His lips twitched into a humorless smile. "I like a little fight, but you're not the one who'll pay the price. People you care about, they're easier to hurt." His gaze slid deliberately to Caitlin. One of the deputies shifted, his stance tightening. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your weapon." The man raised the pistol half an inch, just enough to make the point, and the deputy froze mid-step. Holden's voice came from behind me, high and tense. "Look, maybe we can make a deal." "Shut up," the stranger said without even looking at him. Then his eyes locked back on me, hard enough to make the rest of the room blur. "I'm leaving here with what I came for. You got until the second hand hits 12 on that clock behind you to decide whether it's in a bag or in a box." Silence stretched, thick as wet cement, and then outside, over the hum of the cruiser engines, came a new sound, an unmistakable low mechanical growl. Motorcycles, dozens of them, getting closer. The growl built from a distant rumble to a wall of sound, the kind you feel in your ribs before you hear in your ears. Every head in the room turned toward the open front door as the first set of headlights swung into view, cutting sharp patterns across the walls. The stranger with the pistol didn't flinch. If anything, his stance relaxed, like he'd been expecting this. "Friends of yours?" I asked. He gave me that same thin, humorless smile. "Associates." Naomi muttered something under her breath, too low for anyone but me to catch, but I could read the shape of the word. Trouble. Outside, the motorcycles lined up along the curb, engines idling in perfect sync, black leather jackets, chrome glinting in the cruiser lights. At least 15 riders, maybe more. A couple had helmets with dark visors. The rest stared straight at the house, their faces blank and unreadable. One of the deputies moved toward the door, hand on his radio. "Dispatch, we need backup. Multiple incoming." The radio squawked back something about units en route, but the deputy's voice was drowned out by a sudden rev of engines as 3 riders broke formation and pulled up directly onto the lawn. Grass tore under their tires until they were almost at the porch. The stranger finally raised his voice, calling out to them without turning his back on us. "Hold tight. We're not done here yet." One of the riders killed his engine, swung off the bike, and started up the steps. Tall, broad-shouldered, his jacket patched with a winged skull insignia. He stopped in the doorway and scanned the room, his gaze landing on Caitlin first, then me. "This him?" the rider asked. The man with the pistol nodded. "That's Graham." The rider's eyes narrowed. "Then let's quit wasting time." He looked at Caitlin again, like she was part of the inventory. "We'll take the girl, too, just in case." Holden blurted, "Wait," but stopped when the pistol swung a hair in his direction. I stepped forward, blocking their line of sight to Caitlin. "You're not taking her anywhere." The rider grinned, slow and mean. "Then you better have what we came for." Behind me, I felt Caitlin's grip tighten on the safe deposit key. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but I heard every word. "Dad, what do they already know what a box is?" And before I could answer, a crash exploded from upstairs, with splintering, something heavy hitting the floor. The rider's grin widened. Sounds like they found it. The sound from upstairs was too deliberate to be an accident. Fast footsteps, a sharp metallic clank, then another heavy crash. Whoever was up there wasn't searching. They were tearing the place apart. The man with the pistol didn't even look toward the ceiling. "That'll be my guys," he said, almost casually. "Means we're on schedule." One of the deputies finally stepped forward, voice firm. "Sir, you better put that weapon down and step outside right now." The stranger's eyes flicked to the badge, then back to me. "Deputy, you've got no idea what you're walking into. I'd suggest you keep breathing and let us finish our business." The second deputy's hand hovered near his holster. "This is your last warning." A roar from upstairs cut him off. It wasn't just noise. It was Holden's voice, raw and panicked. "Graham! They've got it!" Every muscle in my body went tight. I started toward the hall, but the rider in the doorway stepped in front of me, blocking the way. "Now hang on," he said. "If they've got it, then we can all calm down and—" From above came another sound, the scrape of something heavy being dragged across the attic floor, followed by the muffled thump of it hitting the ladder. My chest tightened. The footlocker. The taller deputy moved toward the hallway, calling out, "Sheriff's Department." "Stop right there." But then the first of them appeared at the top of the ladder. Two men in black jackets, one of them grinning wide as he planted a boot on the rung, and started down with the footlocker between them. "Careful with that," the man with the pistol called. "That's worth more than your life." The deputies tensed, eyes darting between the gunmen, the bikers outside, and the two men hauling the box. The whole room felt one wrong move from exploding. I took a step forward, trying to calculate. If I could get to the ladder before they hit the bottom, maybe I could. The grinning man's boot hit the floor, the footlocker landing with a heavy thunk beside him. He glanced up at his boss. "Got it." The stranger finally let out a satisfied breath. "Good. Load it on the truck." And that's when Naomi moved. She stepped out from behind the counter where she'd been half hidden, shotgun leveled, eyes locked on the footlocker. "That's not leaving this house," she said. The rider in the doorway chuckled. "Lady, you really want to pull that trigger with all these people in the way?" Naomi didn't blink. "Try me." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then outside, the rumble of the other motorcycles spiked into a deafening roar, and a new set of headlights swept across the porch, coming from the opposite direction. The stranger's expression shifted, just slightly. "We're out of time," he muttered, and then the front windows shattered inward as a flashbang grenade clattered across the floor. The flashbang went off with a crack that tore the air apart, white light flooding every corner of the room. My ears rang, my vision blurred, and for a moment, the whole world tilted sideways. When the haze cleared enough to see, the front door was filled with figures in black tactical gear. Sheriff SWAT, visors down, rifles up. Their voices were sharp, commanding, no room for questions. "Drop the weapons. Hands where we can see 'em." The man with the pistol hesitated half a second too long. Red dots bloomed on his chest, and he let the gun fall with a clatter. The riders outside were being pulled off their bikes and pushed face first into the grass by more deputies. Marcus's men raised their hands, eyes wide. Naomi lowered the shotgun slowly, her knuckles white. Two SWAT officers moved in on the footlocker. One popped it open, rifling to the contents. My deed, my discharge papers, the safe deposit keys, and Martha's locket, lying right on top as if it had been waiting for me. "Belongs to you?" an officer asked. I nodded, my throat tight. Every piece of it. Holden was slumped against the wall, face pale, eyes darting between the deputies and me. "Graham, I didn't." I held up a hand. "Don't. Not tonight." Caitlin stood near the kitchen doorway, still clutching the will. For the first time all night, she looked small, like the weight of every choice she'd made was finally pressing down. One of the deputies approached me with a clipboard. "You'll need to sign for your property once we catalog it. After that, you're free to go. We'll be talking to your house guests here." I looked at Holden, at the man who'd turned my home into a battlefield. Then I turned to Caitlin. "You've got a choice now," I said quietly. "Same one I had weeks ago. You can stay tied to this, or you can walk away." Her eyes brimmed, but she didn't answer. Outside, the engines of the confiscated bikes went silent, replaced by the sound of doors slamming on patrol cars. The night felt heavier without the roar, but it was a different kind of heavy final, in a way. An officer placed Martha's locket in my palm. The metal was cool against my skin, the chain still tangled. I closed my hand around it, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something steady inside me. As I stepped out onto the porch, the cruiser lights painting the street in red and blue, I knew the house would never be the same. Maybe I wouldn't be either, but I'd drawn the line and it had held. Behind me, the door shut with solid, final thud. Ahead, the night air was cold, clean, and wide open. And this time, I walked toward it without looking back. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.